right, so I'd like to welcome everyone here to the panel called Voice of the Wild with Joe Hernandez. I'm your humble host, Greg. This is Joe, in case you need to know.
Hi.
Now, Joe has been voicing characters in video games and TV shows for at least 11 years?
Give or take.
At least 11 years, okay. And he literally has hundreds of credits on IMDb. I was looking at them the other night, and it's like, I was going to just list them all, but it was going to take me like probably 20 minutes to do that, so I'm like, nah.
Well, don't believe everything you read on the internet. That's what I've discovered. Yeah.
So I'm just going to read off a few that I recognize here. So anyway, before we get started, let's give Joe a big round of applause. Okay, so here's some of the credits that I found interesting. Ace Combat 7.
Yeah.
I take it you were like a
Fighter
pilot.
pilot. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
That's a great game. Back to School. That made me think of the Rodney Dangerfield movie.
Not the Rodney Dangerfield one. No. That one was a foreign dub that I think you can find on Netflix, but I'll give you a little bit of an inside story on that. I was directed by a gentleman by the name of Philip Bach, who I now had a great working relationship with. This was my first time being introduced to him. As a director, I found him in that first session to be quite insane. Like normally, like foreign dubs are kind of just like, okay, let's do it. Let's just make sure that we kind of make sense of it. He was like on another level of like trying to really, maximize the artistic and comedic value out of some of these jokes. I was like, oh, buddy, you need to chill. But after that, I'd worked with him on a couple of other projects, Wasteland 3, Transformers, the War for Cybertron trilogy. Philip directed, he was one of the many directors of Genshin Impact. So, I mean, he does Star Rail, he does a bunch of other stuff. So he's a magnificent director, and I wish he would get more credit and more love because, he's definitely earned it. But yeah, working with him, there is no project too small or too obscure for his good take. He goes 1,000%. He goes as hard as you possibly can, and there's something to admire about that.
Okay. Barbie Dreamhouse Adventures.
Yes.
Quickly tell them that story you told me the other day.
Barbie Dreamhouse Adventures on Netflix, another show that's on Netflix. I got called in by the director. Hey, we have 2 characters that we'd like for you to read. One of them is, and if for those of you who watched Barbie Dreamhouse, like there's one season where they go and they work at like this seaside amusement park where it's kind of like a Sea World, Busch Gardens kind of a thing, and it's very fun. We have this one character we'd like to read for. I think his name was like Jose, who's like this Hispanic Latin American tour guide that takes them through the jungle and stuff like that. And then we also have this other character, Vladimir, the Russian bad guy. You want to guess which one I booked? Because it's not the one that you think I booked. I was the Russian bad guy. But it was a lot of fun. So, I mean, again, some of these things you think like, oh, okay, we're going to go in this direction. And it's like, no, we're going to go in a different direction. So, life has a funny way of doing things like that.
Yeah. Let's go through some more. We got Detective Pikachu Returns. You just did that in 2023.
That just came out like last month. Yeah, I got to voice star Danatan in that. That was a lot of fun.
Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles Remastered.
Yes.
JoJo's Bizarre Adventures TV series.
Yeah, I was the voice of Pesci in that. I was telling somebody that was just at my table right now. JoJo's. Got any JoJo's fans out there?
Let's go.
All right, thank you for being JoJo's fans. I mean, JoJo's is like everybody is so chiseled and good looking, and they're buff and they're shredded and they're just like super hyper macho and masculine and all that stuff. And the character that I voice is nothing like that. He has this weird, and they never explain why, but he has this like kind of cucumber head. And his name is Pesci, and he, when I came in to record, I was being directed by Tony Oliver, who, again, if you guys follow your anime, Robotech, I mean, you name it, he's done it. I mean, he worked on the original Mighty Morphin Power Ranger series. And, you know, we really try to dial in, how do you voice a character like this when everybody else is super serious and they're super grounded, and like I said, they're like, everybody's really tough and macho. And you have my guy who's just so derpy. He's not like that at all. And so, you know, we kind of looked at some of the Japanese reference as far as what they did in the original series. And we kind of just workshopped it and massaged it. And we kind of finally arrived at Pesci. I mean, he's very nervous. He's like always walking on eggshells. And he's kind of the runt of the litter of his friends group, where like everybody is always constantly just like talking down to him and like belittling him. And so I really wanted that to reflect in his voice. So I gave him this tick where he just kind of sounds like he's always got to go number 2, and he's always constipated, and he's just really nervous. So I gave him this kind of New Yorker sound and a little bit that talks like that. So I felt like it was a fun choice, and I think people on social media definitely responded very well to it, so pretty happy about that.
All right, I still got more.
Okay, oh my God.
These are just the ones that I recognize. I mean, jeez. Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Last of Us Part 2.
That was a whole lot of fun.
A lot of fun? How much fun?
I worked on the ADR wallet group for that. So, I mean, everybody knows that there's like ADR wallet groups for movies, but again, with video games now, video games, especially like the big AAA titles, they have budgets that rival, if not outright surpass Hollywood movies. And so for us, we were the loot group for that. Do any of you guys see like some of the social media posts for like Spider-Man 2 that just came out, where you saw the loot group like that? That was on the same the Sony soundstage that we were doing that on. And it was a whole lot of fun, man. I worked on Spider-Man Miles Morales, and I also worked on Last of Us Part 2, almost like one right after the other. There's one side of the soundstage that we were on, the other side. And there were times where I couldn't work on Miles Morales because I was working on Last of Us Part 2. In Spider-Man Miles Morales, I'm, Tio, the bodega shop owner, the guy with the spider cat, if you guys remember that mission. But that was a lot of fun, and I, did like some performance capture where like they scan you in and they got you like in that little tiny wetsuit, like with the little ping pong balls and all that stuff. And so, yeah, that was a lot of fun to work on.
NBA 2K20 and 2K21.
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to have worked with those guys a couple of years now, and they brought me back for like 2K22, 23, all the new ones. They originally flew me out to Novato, which is located up in the Bay Area where their campus is located. They converted an entire old Air Force hangar, like a World War II Air Force hangar, and that's where they have all their studios at, and it's really, really cool. I was geeking out because 2K, they work on like all the 2K games. I'm a big wrestling fan. So I was looking at the schedule as far as like what they had going on, and it's like, okay, you got me, but then like next, I think Tuesday they're bringing in AJ Styles to record his stuff for WWE 2K. I was like, oh, can I stick around? Like, I want to meet some of the wrestlers and stuff like that. So.
Now this one kind of caught my eye. One Day at a Time TV series.
Yeah, that
was
was
a sequel to the original Valerie.
Yes, they relaunched it on Netflix, but it kind of has like a new, more modern twist and all that stuff. So I did an episode. It was like closest thing I've done to like on camera
I was gonna say that would have been a live action.
Yeah, I avoid the camera. Like when you have a mug like this, you don't want to be in front of the camera. You want to be. There's a reason why I'm a voice actor and not like a film star or anything like that. So yeah.
A couple of Sega games too. Phantasy Star Online 2.
Yeah.
Shenmue 3. That one caught my eye because I love the original Shenmue. And you said Spider-Man Miles Morales. Street Fighter 6.
Yeah.
Oh,
that was unreal, man. Street Fighter. I mean, it was one of those games. Like, I'm at a point now where I have grown up playing all these games, when I was a kid, and I am just ridiculously lucky to now I'm at a point in my life and my career where I'm able to work on these things, these franchises that I grew up playing. You know, when you think about Zelda and Transformers and Street Fighter, like, oh my God, pinch me. Like, it's just, it's unreal. But yeah.
Torchlight 3, I played the original 2 Torchlight games. They're kind of like Diablo, but...
You played them?
Yeah, I have.
Oh my God, okay. Again, sometimes you do these things and you don't know, especially with certain animes. I did, what is it, From Me to You? And I was working on that, and like, again, I had somebody approach me last month at a convention, and I'm like, oh my God, we love watching it, and it was like, you watched it? Like, people, is it out now? Like, because what happens is you work on it, but they don't actually tell you when the game is out. I'll give you an example. There was a project that I had worked on, reoccurring, like every few weeks they come in and do more and more stuff. And then on Facebook, I'd pop up and they started seeing these advertisements for this one mobile game called Lost Ark. And I was like, oh, okay. And they were doing like interviews with some of like the main cast members. I was like, oh, hey, there's so-and-so. There's, oh, I know Laura. I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. And like, there's a part of me that like really started to get jealous. Like, oh man, I wish I could be in that game. The day the game comes out, they send an email to everybody and saying, hey, this thing that we had worked on that was under an entirely different code name that we didn't want to spoil anything is Lost Ark. So, again, like so many times, like things are under different code names and like it's very cloak and dagger and they don't want spoilers or things like that to get out on the internet.
It's like calling Return of the Jedi Blue Harvest.
Exactly.
You know, they don't want anybody to know about
Yes.
NDA.
The NDA, yes.
And you mentioned Transformers, War Cybertron, and World War Z.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I'm a big fan of the original Max Brooks novel. Like, if you guys read the book, like especially like the zombie survival guide, like I was like geeking out. The movie kind of strays from the source material, and that's putting it very lightly. But being able to play in like a video game version of that story was a lot of fun, especially if you guys ever played like Left 4 Dead. It definitely follows the same format. So it's sort of like, in some ways, the spiritual successor of Left 4 Dead. So yeah, that was a lot of fun to work on.
And then there's 4 that he's most known for that I've had that I'm going to hold back to the end.
Okay.
And just in purpose.
Okay.
And you want to end strong.
Sure.
Right. Well, we're not totally done.
Okay.
Anyway, Fire Emblem.
Fire Emblem Engage.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
That's just came out too, 2023.
That did, yeah.
Hyrule Warriors, Age of Calamity. Anybody heard? I hear some pride over there. Okay, cool. And then probably the 2 you're most known for, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild,
Yeah.
2017. And then most recently, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2023.
Very proud of those ones. Very near and dear to my heart.
Okay, and so you also have done some, you do some Disneyland resorts?
Yeah, so we're here in Florida. We're pretty darn close to Orlando. Anybody ever go to Turtle Talk with Crush? I work over at California Adventure. I've been the voice of Crush now for almost 20 years over there at that park. I was part of the original cast. I've been doing it since day one, still there today. I am one of the few Crush performers. We have a small rotation of guys. Things have been pretty fun. I mean, we've blown up recently because of TikTok. Not a day goes by where like people don't refer to something that they see on TikTok and stuff like that. So that's a lot of fun. But it's been a wonderful, wonderful ride, and that was really sort of my gateway into voiceover. I started off as a theater guy. I was a stage actor. That was my ambition. That's what I learned at in college, and I did a lot of Shakespeare, a lot of these, thous, theys, all that fun stuff. And after I graduated, I quickly learned that unless you were on Broadway or on a national tour, it is impossible to make a living as a stage actor. And at that time, I was doing Turtle Talk character voices over at Disney. I also did the voice of Stitch. Over in Tomorrowland, it was sort of a precursor to Turtle Talk. It was called Stitch's Picture Phone, where you can go in and have like a little, like what we would call now a Skype session with Stitch, and it'd be a 5-minute call, and you would talk to him, and it was a Krista, You know, and it was a lot of fun, man. Unfortunately, they ended the show back in like 2008 and stuff like that. But fortunately, Turtle Talk's been going on now for, like I said, almost 20 years. So that was, like I said, that was really my gateway into voiceover. After I graduated from college, I'd been doing all the work there in the park, and I just kind of figured, I wonder if I get serious about this voiceover thing, maybe I can make a career out of it. Maybe, who knows? Let's just give it a try. And I kind of got off my butt, and I started getting very, very serious and committing myself to classes and just learning as much as I could. My parents really got on my case about like, okay, you graduated, you got your bachelor's. Hey, you should probably go and do a master's program. I was not about to do another 3 years in a master's program and get, I don't know, about another $100,000 in college debt. However, I started taking class after class after class after class in voiceover and going up to LA and Burbank and North Hollywood and all that, and just diving into as many classes as I possibly could. And I sort of justified it in the sense of, this was my master's program. This was my graduate's degree. It was an extension of my education. So, hey, not everybody has to go and complete their master's program. Like, find what works for you. But yeah.
So, kind of segueing into what you
Sure.
just said, it says you trained with some legendary voiceover actors, Richard Horowitz.
Yeah, well, Richard Horowitz. If you guys have ever seen Invader Zim, I mean, he's come on, he's the best. For my money, he is the absolute best animation teacher that you could, and he is every bit those characters. I mean, like, just, he is an amazing, wonderful human being that like just cares about all of his students. And then like every once in a while he'll like do some crazy like, cartoon stuff, and it's just a lot of fun to like just be around.
And you also mentioned Bob Bergen.
Bob Bergen, who's the voice of Porky Pig.
Porky Pig.
Yeah. I mean, again, taught me how to be a professional, taught me, how to learn the tricks of the trade and really the technique and how to dive into the business. So yeah, I trained under Debbie Derryberry, who's, again, one of the best animation teachers out in LA. She's the voice of Jimmy Neutron, if you guys remember that show. But again, like so many of these people, that previous generation before me, I've had the privilege of studying under and learning what it takes to be at that professional level. Yeah.
Right, and we had mentioned Tony Oliver earlier. Yeah. Now, anybody watch Robotech back in the day, or did anybody know Robotech? Tony Oliver is the voice of Rick Hunter, who is like the main character of Robotech. So when I saw that you had trained under him, it just blew my mind. And I was wondering, what kind of things have you learned from all of these?
With Tony, I mean, I remember his voice in the back of my head, slow it down, relax, again, like I think we get so caught up in trying to like perfect things, and Tony is big on the process, like letting it come to you. Don't need to rush it, take your time. And anime specifically, and I think I was talking with somebody about this, anime is very technical, obviously, because you were trying to thread the needle on the timing of the original Japanese performance. And again, like with lip flaps and, the syllables and all of that, like it's very, very difficult technically. And you need to marry the technical part of it also with the performance side. And so it's tough because you're bound to what the original Japanese voice actor's delivery was. And so how do you do that without sounding like a robot, that's just trying to talk to people? So yeah, I mean, Tony is just a wealth of knowledge, my God. Like what an amazing resource he is.
So his advice was, slow it down.
Slow it down, take your time, no need to rush, So that's yeah.
We can speed it up in post, but we can't slow it down.
Yes, exactly.
So, all right, so you touched on this earlier, but what are kind of some of the games that you enjoy playing, and any of those games inspire you into doing any voice work?
I mean, I grew up with the original Legend of Zelda series. I grew up playing everything on Nintendo, NES. We weren't a Sega household, so with respects to like any of the Sega titles, we didn't have those ones, but we had NES, Super Nintendo, N64, GameCube. I mean, you name it. I did it all, man. I mean, the original Mario Brothers games, everything. I grew up playing those same games. And so, again, I'm just very, very fortunate to have been able to now work on some of those franchises that I grew up playing. Yeah.
So as someone, I'm more of an old school gamer, so I'm not really into the more modern Zelda games. I mean, I think the last Zelda game I played was probably Link's Awakening on the Game Boy Color. Actually, no, it may have been the Nintendo DS game. That was a good one. But so yeah, I'm more old school. So so how much of the characters that you play are like you? How much of yourself do you put into those characters, and how do you research the characters before you?
Really, really good question. I mean, you try to take a piece of your personality and put it into everything you do. With Daruk, when we were working on Zelda, those first auditions, I didn't know what I was auditioning for. They kind of kept it all from us. I mean, they try to keep it secret. They don't want spoilers getting out or anything like that. So all I knew was that I was working on a fantasy game for Nintendo. And that's what I was auditioning for. But that could be Fire Emblem, that could be a couple of other titles. So it's like, okay, and in the script, I was trying to do my homework and kind of scan. No mention of Link, no mention of Hyrule, no mention of Ganon or Zelda or anything like that. So it's like, wow, okay. And they purposely scrubbed all that stuff because, again, they don't want spoilers to get out. So the direction that I got for Daruk was that, and again, there was no mention of him being this Goron. I believe the direction that I got was that he was this kind of big, bolsterous barbarian guy. Specifically thinking like remember Gimli from Lord of the Rings? Just this. He's a barbarian, but there's this sort of soft, lovable side to him, and it's like, so that really helped kind of like dictate my choices and my characterization with him. So it's like, what does this character sound like where he's gruff, this tough guy that can kick some butt, but also, very friendly, very approachable, very honest, a friend to the end, and you just kind of go from there. And you work with your directors and the producers that are there with you to try to massage this character and try to flesh it out and realize it. And Daruk has this very lovable, fatherly-like quality, and that was something that I really, really tried to tap into. And a credit to Jamie Mortellaro, who ended up casting and directing us, because when you look at all of the cast for Zelda, specifically the champions, I feel like we all sort of embody the personalities of the characters that we play. Like, I feel like I am that big, just lovable, gentle giant kind of a guy.
I can see that.
You look at Mifa, who Amelia plays. She's this very soft-spoken. She's this delicate flower, and I'm talking about Amelia as a person, a little shy. Again, she doesn't do too many convention appearances, so she's kind of hard to find. But again, she really embodies that innocent and that pure and that very feminine quality. So I think we all really. And like I said, I credit to Jamie for casting the right people for the right job, because I feel like you really hit the nail on the head. Yeah.
Now, you had mentioned that you were more of a Nintendo fan than a Sega fan, but you've done a couple of Sega games, including, as I said, Shenmue 3 and Phantasy Stars 2. How is it different working from, working with Nintendo to working with Sega? How does it different working for these different
Every
companies?
project is different from the next, and even though one might be a quote-unquote Nintendo project versus a quote-unquote Sega project, I don't really see it that way, and I don't think that's the way that they really approach it. I mean, Nintendo is very protective of their IPs, obviously, and like they will, when I worked with them, they have their people online. They have their people from Seattle. Sometimes they fly them down, or they have them patched in and stuff like that. So they're very hands-on in that respect. But a lot of the times, you're working specifically with specific directors or specific studios. So it's not necessarily a case of like a Nintendo game versus a Sega game. It's, I'm working at this studio, or I'm working with this director, or I'm working with that director. And sometimes, Nintendo will handpick their directors that they choose, or the studio will handpick their directors that they want for certain projects, whereas Sega will handpick, you know, their studios and their directors and all that stuff. So I don't see it so much as like a Nintendo versus Sega thing as so as it is like, oh, I'm working with that director's guy, or I'm working with that director. It's like, okay, cool.
I was kind of hoping for well, you know, Sega's way more.
No, I love them all. They're all, you know, wonderful, and they're very nice to us. So it's not like that.
Now, do you have your own home studio, or do you go into the studio to record?
Both. There are projects where, again, I live about maybe an hour and a half away from Los Angeles, from like Burbank, from North Hollywood out in that area. I'm actually down in Anaheim, which is a little bit of ways away. So if you are able to record from home, and if they'll allow me, I will save the gas, and I will save my time and the effort and all that stuff, and record. I started off recording from home in a little tiny, like, you know, closet that I had, and I, you know, gutted it, and I put in the soundproof foam, and, you know, I did the whole thing, and that's what got me through. I just recently purchased one of those like big, you know, kind of whisper rooms that's supposed to be kind of soundproof and all that. So you make upgrades as the years go by, and as, you know, your career and your trajectory allow for it. But funny story, working remotely in that little tiny walk-in closet, you know, versus working in the studio. You know, studio, you have like air conditioning. You have all those creature comforts. At home, again, I don't have one of those professional settings, especially like working in my little tiny podunk, you know, kind of closet. So when COVID hit, everything and the entire industry shifted towards working remote. So you couldn't go into the studio for a good stretch at a time. And so it's like, okay, well, let's give it a try. Let's try and record from home, and hopefully my acoustics and my microphone are up to snuff, and we did it. So we worked on, one of the first major projects I worked on during COVID was Hyrule Warriors. And we recorded probably back in like the middle of July, August, which again in Southern California, that's where it gets really, really hot. And working in this tiny closet without any air conditioning. And did I mention sometimes these sessions can last up to 4 hours? So you see where I'm going with this. You're working in there and you're trying to give it your all, but I mean, you were in a hot box. I mean, you were just roasting in your own juices. And if any of you guys have seen Ace Ventura, Pet Detective 2, when he's like hiding inside that rhinoceros and it starts to heat up and the fan dies on him, and he's just sweating buckets and just you know, like a rotisserie chicken. That was me working on Hyrule Warriors. And at a certain point, I just had to. I had to shed articles of clothing, and like a shirt came off, and you know this came off, and it's like, okay, we're getting by. You know, again, August summer heat, and I kind of made the observation that while I was voicing Daruk, we're both kind of wearing the same outfit. He's got his little tiny whiteys, and here I am in my skivvies here, and that's it. That was about as method acting as I'd like to take it, I guess.
I was going to say, that sounds like some method acting.
But we also worked on Tears of the Kingdom from home, so I could say that I recorded a Zelda game from my house, which, again, is an insane privilege and just unreal to think about, you know. So, yeah, very lucky.
So you do the English version of these games.
Yes.
What kind of direction do you get when you're recording? Because a lot of them, aren't they originally done in Japanese?
Correct.
So,
and so you live and die off of how well your script is being translated. You know, again, not everything is going to be a one-for-one perfect translation. And again, when you're beholden sometimes to the timing of the original Japanese or the original Korean delivery, now you have a window of time that you need to thread that needle through. And again, they may, you know, sometimes it's just this, and now I have 7 syllables that I need to fit things into. So it's again, very technical in trying to thread that needle with respects to the timing. And so you get really good at practicing those things.
and in the back of your mind, you're thinking of But Tony said, slow it down.
So, well, in this case, that was definitely speed it up.
Yeah,
Speed it up. And you get very profound and very proficient at being able to tell the difference between delivering a line in half a second to 0.7 seconds to a full second to 1.2 seconds there. I know those sound very like how can you tell the difference? There is a world of difference between having that much time and not. So, like I said, it becomes very technical.
So far, what has been the most rewarding thing about doing this voiceover work? Aside from the obvious.
Sharing it with my kids. Sharing it with my kids. You know, my kids, they like Bluey, they like a lot of stuff on Disney Junior. I haven't been able to work on anything like that. But I was playing Tears of the Kingdom when it first came out, and just sitting on the couch and hearing my daughter, you know, like, is that you, Daddy? Like, to me, that, like, sorry, I'm getting a little, like teary-eyed thinking about it, but it really is like a very significant moment. You know, and I think if you ask most voice actors, or just most actors in general, that have kids, where you're able to share something with your children, that, to me, that is the best. Like, you know, and it's funny because for every one of those, there might be one or two of voice actors or actors that like, it's like, hey, you know, like Chris Pratt might say, hey, I worked on this thing, and like the kids don't care. Like, it's like, we don't care now. Like, so what if you're Star-Lord? Like, you know, it's like, it's so, again, for every one of those, there's like a me. So, you know, who knows?
Is there any one of those games you're like, oh, why? I don't want my kid to watch me play this game.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's like death and dismemberment, and oh my God, there's like just some brutal, like blood and guts type stuff where it's like, okay, that's hard to watch. So they did you know that Japanese movie, The Ring? I think I worked on a sequel for it or something like that, or they did something like on Netflix. Ju-on, okay, you know what's up. I worked on that, and there is a scene, I'm not going to describe it, and I'm sure, you know, if you've seen the whole thing, you probably know some of those scenes are pretty hard to watch. And so it's like, I fancy myself having a pretty good stomach and a pretty good eye and a good threshold for like what I can, like, you know, hold up with. Working on that was like, ooh, man, that's rough. That's rough. So yeah, I mean, every once in a while there is stuff, and they try to, you know, the studios, when you get called in for something that might be graphic or like really hardcore or like, you know, offensive or something like that, like they try to give you as much of a heads up, like, hey, this might contain this, that might get. I worked on Berserk.
Oh, nice.
And like, again, they warn, you know, there might be some adult language, or there might be some you know, graphic violence, and again, like within 5 seconds of the session, I'm doing a scene, and this guy is just getting his head split open. So it's like, oh yeah, that didn't take long. I mean, it's Berserk, you know, it's notorious for it. So it's like, you know, sometimes you kind of have to know what you're getting yourself into, you know.
Berserk, is that the Atari game? I remember that one.
That's what Dark Souls came from.
Yeah, I mean, literally, Atari just did Berserk Recharged. So, like, okay, but I don't think it's the same game you're talking about. So, how about some TV shows or movies did you regret missing out on, or games? Anything that you?
There's always stuff. There always. I mean, it's so weird because, you know, you audition for like, I don't know how many things in a given week, in a given month, and statistically, if you book like 2 or 3 of them, that's pretty good. So, and I mean, it's really, really tough because you want to put your best foot forward. You want to give 110%. You want to knock it out every single time. And like, logically, I know that I'm not going to book everything that I do, and that's just a part of the business. Like, and so it's weird because you have to get emotionally invested in something very quick for the sake of the audition, and like, you know, put your best creative juices to work. And then as soon as you click send and send in that audition, you almost have to forget about it because if you get hung up on, it's like, oh, whatever happened about this, whatever happened to that. It's like now you're stressing and you're like overthinking things, and you're worrying about something that you have absolutely no control on. I'm not going to name names as far as like things that I've worked on that I wish, because you know, I'll just leave it open and vague. I will tell you a story in that I auditioned for JoJo's, I think it was season 5, which was Diamond is Unbreakable. I auditioned for that, and I really wanted it, and I got a call back, and you know, they ended up going with someone else. I'm not going to name the role or the names or anything like that, but it's like, oh, okay, well, damn, I really wanted that one. Little did I know that, you know, hey, season 6 Golden Wind comes around, and they're like, hey, Joe, we have this role in mind for you. So again, what might be a no right now might end up being maybe later down the line. So you just never know where things are going to take you.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I mean, you probably have to audition like 100 times before you get one job.
Yeah. And it's so weird. Like I said, you kind of have to be mental. Like you kind of have to like go in like not knowing or having expectations, and you just kind of have to forget it as quickly as you do it in order to maintain any sort of semblance of emotional and mental health in this business, because of the sheer volume of rejection that we face on a daily basis. So, and again, like it's tough because there are things that's like, oh man, I really want that one. I'd love to do that. Like, oh man, I could wish. Or like sometimes you hear who they ended up going with. It's like, they went with that person? Like, really? Come on. Like, you know. So, I mean, it happens.
You just have to be glad that they get, you know, because they're probably friends of yours.
And that's the other thing is like, these are people that I know personally. You know, the voiceover community is pretty relatively small, at least in LA. So like, we all kind of know each other's business. You know, LA is one of the big major hub in voiceover, but so is, you know, Texas. Like that's where the Funimation and Crunchyroll does a lot of their dubs. So it's like you have the LA actors, you have the Texas actors, and then you have like this small pocket of people in like Toronto or New York and all that stuff. Kind of quickly circling back, and I'm going to try to tie this up with a nice and, you know, pretty bow. Bill Rogers, who's the voice of King of Hyrule in Zelda, he was one of those New York guys. He had been working on the original Pokemon series for I don't even know how many years. Flew out to LA and like was trying to establish himself, and I'd known him for a couple of years. And again, we hang out, we go and get drinks, we get coffee. I've had him over my house. We, you know, again, we run in the same circle. So nothing but love for Bill. When I was working on Zelda, you know, I had run into a couple people at the studio. Like as you're walking out, somebody else is coming in, or as you're coming in, somebody's walking out. So I would run into Patricia, you know, and I'm, you know, it's like, oh, you were Princess Zelda. I got to hear some of your work on the cutscenes. Or I'd run into Elizabeth Maxwell. It's like, oh, I love your work as a voice. Or, you know, I was introduced to Amelia. So it's like, okay, at a certain point, like, okay, I think I kind of know who's in the cast. Like, I, you know, have a pretty good grasp of it. Unbeknownst to me, Bill was King of Hyrule. And again, NDAs being as tight as they are, you don't say anything because you don't want things to get out, and you don't want to get on Nintendo's bad side for leaking anything. So again, I'd be hanging out with Bill. We'd get coffee, you know, go do stuff, go, you know, happy hour, you know, get some bite to eat and stuff like that. And then about a week before Zelda came out, got an email. Just, you know, hey guys, you know, sent out to the entire cast. Hey guys, really excited about what's about to happen. We're really looking forward to it. You know, we're excited to have you guys on board. You know, super pumped. I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool that we got this email from Nintendo. And I started looking at like the names on this email. I was like, okay, I got Patricia, I got Amelia, and I see Bill's name on there. I was like, are you kidding me? And so it was kind of that like Spider-Man meme where like we're pointing at each other, and it's like, what do you do? So again, you know, you never know, man. It's crazy. It's like you know, you try to keep secrets as best you can. Yeah. There was I'm sure you guys heard, well, Tears of the Kingdom was being made. I think it was like one of the actors, like the one in Italy, like for the Italian version or maybe the French version, had said something, and like there were some leaks that had gotten out. Problem is, not only was he like the Italian version, he was the Italian Darouk. So when we were working on Tears of the Kingdom, I feel like I got some like secondhand, like, you better not leak anything, Joe. But it was like, but I'm not the Italian Daruk, I'm the American Daruk, don't worry about it. Like, I'm not gonna say anything. It was like, better not, better not get anything out. So, again, working on Tears of the Kingdom versus working on Breath of the Wild, I can tell you that the plot points were much more hush-hush. I mean, like, I was in the dark, and like, really the only way I found out about like some of the plot points was having to play the game like you guys. Again, like, one of the directions that I had gotten was just, hey, something has happened, and you're all kind of sad. Okay? And like, at a certain point, you don't want to be a jerk. Like, you don't want to ask too many questions, because then, they might see you as like being like difficult or something like that. I was like, okay, so how do I feel about this? Or, it's like, and then working on, like, say with Yunobo, where he's introduced as evil Yunobo. I was like, okay, so we're evil Yunobo, we're being mind controlled, but like, I'm seeing Link for the first time in how many years? Does that change anything and stuff like that? So again, you kind of have to rely on your directors and the writers and the producers and the translators, again, kind of bring you all from full circle, because they are your lifeline. You have to put complete 100, 1000% trust in the people, because at the end of the day, all NDA and all secrets aside, and I know we don't want leaks getting out or anything like that, at the end of the day, your directors, your writers, your producers, they all want you to deliver the best performance that you can. Nobody's rooting against you, so you just gotta work as a team as best as you possibly can, and ask questions here or there. Try not to be a pest. Don't be a pest.
Good, that's good advice. Good advice. All right, so next thing I would like to do is I don't know if you would be interested in possibly doing a quick scene.
Yeah,
from,
let's do it.
Legend of Zelda.
Yeah.
We have a scene from the game here between Daruk and Zelda. And what do you think about that?
Zelda?
What?
Can I voice Zelda?
You want to be Zelda?
Yeah.
Okay.
Who wants to voice Daruk? I want to
Is there a
hear.
lady? I would like a lady.
Ooh, that would be a nice plot.
Yes.
I'm looking at you right here. I'm looking at
This lady in the front here. I'm gonna come around with the mic. Hold on.
I had a little thing when the last time we as a cast got together, I would get Patricia and Elizabeth, and I would try to get us to do each other's catchphrases. So I would do Urbosa's Fury is, ready to go. And like, I would try to get Patricia to do like, Daruk's protection is now ready to roll. And it was just so funny hearing her Princess Zelda, trying to do the Daruk voice. So it was a lot of fun. So, are you ready?
Are you ready? I'm ready.
Okay.
I'll be the narrator. This fine lady will be Daruk.
Give me your best. What's your name again? Cece.
Cece.
Give me your best. Great job, little guy.
Great job, little guy.
I love it. Your cast. That's
All
beautiful.
right, let's do this.
Beautiful.
All right. Zelda and Daruk are traveling through a rocky land.
Count me in, tiny princess. I'm the fearless Daruk, after all. And if Hyrule needs my help, I'll gladly lay down my life.
Thank you, Daruk.
Not sure if it's Calamity Ganon's fault, or what I hear monsters have been attacking people more than ever lately. Times like these, you shouldn't leave the castle with a horde of mighty Garms to watch over.
Now, can you give me some like weight? Give me some like, because Daruk's got that big belly, and like, think of like a cop, just kind of walk. No, let's do like give me some like, make him waddle. Give him that swag. Take your time.
Deep down. Find it deep down.
You sound like father. He's assigning a knight to watch over me wherever I go. I hear the top contender is the most accomplished swordsman in all of Hyrule.
That could only be. What the?
Daruk sees a group of Kukos ahead.
They really are over the place these days. Is someone being attacked? Cowards! Wait here, princess.
Okay, now I want to hear you. I'm like, again, give me a big, long, like swinging of his hair. I mean, really wind it up. I mean, again, yeah.
Like you're in a big battle. Come on.
Get no, stand up, like just. Yeah.
All right.
There you go. That's the spirit.
After that battle, the cuckoos run away screaming.
Spineless little cuckoos. No monster stands a chance when fighting me. The almighty Daruk. Ah ha ha!
Yeah, that's got to be a belly laugh. I mean, really from your belly. I love it.
Princess Zelda sees a dog and approaches him.
Oh, you're safe. Seems like our friend here was the one being attacked. Precious boy.
Zelda looks over at Daruk.
You saved his life. Huh?
Daruk is scared. Sometime later, the dog runs off home.
Good riddance, and stay safe. I'm sorry you had to see that side of me. As a kid, dogs always chased me. I still panic when I see one of those critters.
I never imagined the great Daruk would have a weakness.
So tell me, princess,
Yes.
Calamity Ganon isn't, some kind of a dog monster, is he?
We have a good laugh at the end.
And
scene.
beautiful We'll have to send that to Patricia. Oh my God.
All right, so does anybody have any questions?
Yeah.
Tons of
Joe?
questions, yeah.
Questions? Okay.
So tell me a little bit about your in-home production, right? So, I'm sorry. So in your in-home production, are you using a boom mic? Are you using a condenser mic? Are you using a preamp? What is your setup? What is it that you're doing to kind of create the voice that the director and the editor don't have to add inflection to in order to bring into the scene?
So with respects to the tech that I use, I have a couple of different microphones at my disposal depending on what it is that we call for. You know, one of the microphones that I use is a Sennheiser 416 shotgun microphone. It's one of the industry standards.
Yeah.
I mean, most professional places will use that. So they'll use that microphone. They'll also use a TLM 103. I don't have one of those, but when I found out we were working on Tears of the Kingdom, I went out, I didn't buy a TLM 103. I went out and got a Neumann U87, which will set you back. That'll put a dent in your pocketbook. But again, they didn't, for the record, they never asked me to go do that. That's something I did on my own. But it's like, hey man, we're working on Zelda from home. We got to step it up. So again, you know, and working from home remotely, especially during COVID, you know, you would send audio samples out to them. You would like, okay, like, hey, are the acoustics all right? Is my microphone up to snuff? Does this work? You know, and so, you know, you would do that. And COVID was this mad dash of people trying to like upgrade their systems, because up until then, you could just go into the studio and record, and it was like, hey, I don't need a big, fancy, expensive microphone unless you wanted to. But you know, so it was like this crazy, like feeding frenzy of like, oh, I got to get the new this, I got to get to that, I got to get the preamp for that and all that stuff. So one of the things I bought was a subscription for Source Connect, which is a software that allows you to connect with studios directly, and like they're able to like record like MP3 and WAV files and all that stuff, and it's like, you know, broadcast level quality type stuff. You can do it as a monthly subscription, or you can spend a couple $100 and do it like, you know, as one flat fee. Which, I mean, again, it's a business expense, but you know, hey, you got to do it. It's you know, part of what you do. So that's one thing. I am not an engineer. So fortunately, with this technology, this software that I was telling you, Source Connect, an engineer is at the studio remotely able to patch in, and they're able to do all of their.
They take your dry vocals.
They do it, and I just like, hey, do you want me to turn this up or do you want me to turn it down? That's all I do. The engineer does what they do. And let me tell you, an engineer is a godsend. A great engineer is your best friend. They will make you sound like $1,000,000. They are the unsung heroes of this industry, and they do not get nearly enough credit. So please, if you know any engineers, thank them.
All right, I think we have time for one more question. I see this lady here with her hand up.
Hi there. What's your name?
Hello, my name is Miss Allison.
Hi. How's it going?
Good, thank you very much. So you said that you have been doing some voice work for the Disney parks.
Yes.
So I've worked with the public a lot, and I know that you probably have some very interesting stories
I do.
with interacting with the general public
Yes.
as Crush.
Yes.
Do you have any favorite stories or most interesting
Oh,
stories that you'd like to
gosh.
share with us?
I mean, without peeling back the curtain too much, I can tell you the very first week on the job, and I mean, this was me, brand spanking new, brand new show. They just brought it to California Adventure. One of the first shows that I did, the little kid asks me, "Crush, have you ever killed someone?" So again, you have to think on your feet, like you just gotta roll with the punches. Favorite color, or what do you like to eat? And it's usually pretty set. Adults are pretty cool to talk with. Again, they might ask, hey, who's gonna win the Super Bowl? Or what do you think about this? What do you think about that? But it's usually nothing that ever crosses the line, as I would say. Now, teenagers. Teenagers, on the other hand, they are mean for sport. My goodness, those are the ones that you got to watch out for, because they love to just mess with you, man. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Do we have time for one more question?
One more, yeah.
Yeah.
Really quickly, I just wanted to ask, you said you worked on Street Fighter 6. I wanted to know, what did you do for the voice acting?
So during the single player mode campaign, when you do the world tour and all that stuff, I voiced two of the characters, and I don't remember their name, but they were NPCs that you fight during the story mode. One of them is this monk, and again, I haven't played the game, so I don't know. Have you? Okay, so is there a monk that you? Okay, so I voiced that guy. Again, they don't really give you anything more than okay, this is what we think the character's in. So I did a lot of that, and then there's this other area where you go to where you fight this gambler guy. And again, I was this casino gambler. I wish I could tell you more, but he's not one. You haven't got that? Yeah. Okay, yeah. So again, he's not one of the main principal cast. He's one of the NPCs and stuff like that. So we did some cutscenes. I did so many fighting efforts, because again, that's part of the storyline. Is Street Fighter, you have to fight these people. So we did that, and I don't even know how many hundreds of lines of attack efforts and charge ups, and when you're beaten, and all these different things. So there's a lot that goes into it. We did a couple of hours on that, and spanning a couple of different sessions. So I mean, even the smallest roles on something like that are still pretty tremendous. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, well, that is our time with Joe Hernandez. Let's give him a great round of applause.
If you guys have any more questions, please do stop over at the table. We'll be there tonight, I think, until 8 o'clock. We might have a break at some point, but we'll be there signing autographs. Come by, say what's up, ask questions and stuff like that. Feel free to reach out to me on Twitter at Joe Hernandez VO. You can find me there. I'm more active on Twitter than I am on Instagram, but yeah, please hit me up.
All right, thank you guys.